Grindstaff.
Yes, and we actually have Campbell Ingram here today.
Yes, Mr. Ingram from the Conservancy, the Executive Director. This is file item 7 members. File item 7. And Mr. Ingram, this report just came out 3 days ago, and comments are due back on this proposed plan by April sometime. And so this, members, we just got a copy this morning, and we'll have more full discussions later, but Mr. Ingram wanted to just give us a brief overview of this and respond to any questions that we might have.
Great. Thank you very much, Chair Eisenberg and council members. It really is a pleasure to be here today and be able to provide this document to you, our first public draft of our strategic plan. I wanted to briefly tell you a little bit about the process we went through and just a little bit about the contents and maybe one key strategy that we recommend, and then certainly answer any of your questions. We're very much looking forward to your input on this. As you're aware, obviously we are required to be consistent with the Delta Plan, and we've made attempts in this process to make sure that that consistency is there. We started this process about a year ago, and we were very diligent about being out in the Delta community, trying to get input from the Delta community. We met, of course, with the counties and their key staff, the 5-County Farm Bureau Coalition, the agricultural commissioners, all manner of business owners, boating operations, restaurateurs, and we also had a total of 8 public meetings in the Delta. And through that process, we were asking very, very straightforward questions. We have some fairly broad mandates. What does it mean for the Delta Conservancy to play a role in increasing opportunities for recreation and tourism in the Delta? How do we add value to what's already going on? And we got a great deal of good, very, very positive feedback and some really good ideas, which are summarized in the document. As the chair mentioned, we are asking for comments by April 20th. We will hold 3 more public workshops. They're listed on the flyer that you have, one in Rio Vista, one in Clarksburg, and one in Oakley, all in the second week of April. Of course, all that information is available on our website. And we anticipate adoption. We will bring back, we'll take all the comments that we get, we'll revise the document, we'll take it to our board on the 20th of May, and then we will take hopefully a final draft to our board on a special session the 27th of June, and hopefully adopt the plan at that point. So in the plan you will see we essentially describe our role in the Delta. We are fundamentally a partner in the Delta community. We describe, of course, the input that we receive from the Delta community, and then we have a series of 8 overarching goals that will guide our actions in the Delta for the next 5 years. The top 3, not I say top 3, but the first 3 very much go to establishing ourselves as a partner with the Delta agricultural community, leading economic enhancement activities for the Delta, and of course then playing a lead role in doing ecosystem restoration in the Delta as well. One of the key strategies that we're recommending that I wanted to bring to your attention, I think it's important, we recommend the creation of a restoration network in the Delta. As BDCP moves forward, if it meets the standard of a natural community conservation plan and is adopted by the Delta plan, ultimately that will result in high-level targets for ecosystem restoration and some general concepts about where the restoration ought to occur in the Delta. We will at that point have at least 4 organizations involved in the ecosystem restoration: Department of Water Resources, Fish and Game, the state and federal water contractors, water agency, and ourselves, as well as a host of other land trust and nonprofit organizations. And we'll have a very critical need to be able to integrate that effort, learn adaptively from what we're implementing, and work that back into the management process, and of course track everything that's going on in the system. We have some examples in our history: the Central Valley Project Improvement Act and the Cal-Fed Bay Delta Program, Ecosystem Restoration Program, which were very challenged by the ability to track everything that was going on, assimilate it, and learn from that process. So we're proposing this network, that the Conservancy is an appropriate vehicle to convene this dialogue, to develop a restoration framework or implementation plan, convening the agencies that will be involved in that restoration, but probably most importantly, bringing the local communities into that discussion. That's consistent with our mandate, and we think it's very appropriate that at this point in defining how restoration will happen in the Delta, that they be brought into that discussion. So that was what I wanted to provide you briefly today. We very much look forward to your comments and your insight on how we can improve this document and make it a good document. And I'm also happy to say it's only 70 pages long, so it's easy to be under schedule when your document's only 70 pages long.
That probably suggests you really are being strategic.
And not doing an environmental impact report.
Absolutely.
Don, did you have, no? Felicia, then Gloria.
Just a quick question. I appreciate you talking about how you need to be consistent with the Delta plan, but do you feel that you've been able to give enough input into our sections of the plan to influence it based on the expertise? I know you've only been there a year, so you're getting up and running, but I really see you as a resource as well.
Well,
you're not supposed to just wait for us. You should be influencing us too.
Right. Well, we try to take a proactive approach for the consistency determination. The two plans that aren't complete now are the Central Valley Plan of Flood Control and of course, the Delta plan. We, throughout the process, have been reading the Delta plans as they've come out in draft form, and we have provided comments. The Council has been receptive to those comments, and we've seen changes as a result of those comments. So I anticipate that the consistency between the two plans is not going to be a significant challenge.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram, for your report this morning. I'm glad to hear that you received very positive comments on your report thus far, but I'd like to hear some of the comments that were not so positive, if any.
The report has just now come out, so we haven't received, we've received very little feedback at all. All of it, I would say, was positive. Now, in the process of being out in the Delta community and working with the community to identify our roles and what our objectives and goals might be, we certainly got quite a bit of pushback from the Delta community. And I think that largely centered around, the age-old, hi, we're a new state agency and we're here to help, where in the past they've gotten very little assistance from the state agencies, and they're very concerned about the state in general and the plans that are moving forward in their area. So we were met with a great deal of skepticism, some very strong resistance in many cases. But I would say almost with 100%, every conversation we had, the first 10 to 15 minutes was spent explaining our role and how we can be a partner. And I would say very, very consistently there was a crack there. People were willing to have a dialogue when they better understood our relationship to the Stewardship Council and the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. So dialogue is really key, I think.
Right. So once you clarify your role, do you feel that they feel that you're going in the right direction in terms of what you're supposed to do?
I wouldn't presume to speak for the majority. I think the conversations that we've had are going to be ones that we will need to have repeatedly for the next several years as we establish ourselves and establish the relationships that will be necessary for us to be effective in the Delta. But again, I'm encouraged by the feedback we get after having dialogue with
Great.
some even the most resistant of people that we've run into.
Great. Thank you.
Pat.
When do you get your money
Well, you'll notice in the document we talk.
That'll help with your relationship.
It will. From my CalFed days, I remember when we were moving a lot of money and I was everybody's friend. That's certainly up in the air. We do talk about 4 different scenarios and how our role will change relative to funding level, availability funding, and relative to the completeness of the plans. So we contemplate how we can be effective. And currently, I would say that we're being very creative and we are bringing funding into the organization, but not anywhere near the order of magnitude that was anticipated.
Other questions?